Giving someone a ride is very common in some regions, but nowadays it has become risky and dangerous. Yet not every risk comes from modern perils, as three friends discovered on an abandoned road. Louisiana is made of paths that don't appear on tourist maps. Roads that cross abandoned fields, traverse still water swamps, and get lost among moss-draped cypress trees. On that October night, the heat still lingered in the air, even after sunset. Miguel, Tyler, and Chloe were heading to a college festival 2 towns away. The GPS indicated a detour on a rural road that promised to save nearly half an hour. They entered it without much thought. The asphalt soon gave way to dirt, and the cell signal disappeared. The silence there was different. No crickets, no birds, not even the sound of their tires on the ground. Just a constant low hiss, as if the world was whispering something that hadn't been understood yet. Then they saw her. In the middle of the road, at a Y-shaped fork, a woman stood alone, illuminated only by the car's low beams. She stood still. She wore worn white clothes, stained with mud. Her dark, wet hair fell over her face. Arms down by her sides, fists closed. Miguel braked hard, startled. The car stopped a few meters from her. Chloe, in the back seat, muttered something no one understood. The woman lifted her face. Her eyes were open, but they didn't look at them. They just looked into the darkness ahead. Tyler stepped out of the car. He asked if she needed help. She nodded slowly, saying nothing, and climbed into the back seat. None of them noticed the strange smell she brought with her, nor that her clothes seemed very dry for someone walking on soaked ground. "Where are you going?" Chloe asked. The woman answered without looking at anyone. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "I can't stay away for very long." The car drove on in silence for a few more miles. The road seemed to grow narrower, as if the vegetation was swallowing it bit by bit. The headlights revealed dry branches, rusted signs, and forgotten farm markers. No other vehicle crossed the path. No houses with lights on. No sign of civilization beyond the dirt accumulating at the roadside. The woman in the back seat didn't move. She kept her hands in her lap, eyes fixed ahead, and a slight tremor in her shoulders, as if she were shivering from cold. Even though the car was warm, and the presence of the others didn't seem to affect her. Chloe watched through the rear view mirror, her unease growing. She felt the woman wasn't breathing. The window beside her didn't fog up. Her skin was pale, with scars around her neck that looked improperly healed. There was dirt under her nails, built up in amounts that didn't match a short walk. And the smell. Now they noticed it. A light, sweet odor, almost imperceptible, but rotten. Miguel suggested dropping her off in the nearest town. The woman then murmured, almost in a breath, the name of a street none of them recognized. When the GPS blinked back on the screen, it pointed to an old neighborhood in the next town. A dead-end street lined with abandoned houses. They didn't know it yet, but they were heading toward the end. Their arrival was silent. The street was narrow, with cracked sidewalks and darkened lampposts. The house where she asked to get off was in ruins. Broken doors, boarded-up windows. The faded paint revealed worn numbers. It looked like the place had been ripped out of time. The woman stepped out of the car without looking back. She walked to the sidewalk and paused. For a moment, she hesitated at the open doorway. Then, after a scream, she vanished into the darkness. When the three finally looked back at the rear seat, they saw it was bone dry. No marks, no imprint, not a sign that anyone had been there. And the smell, it lingered, but now it came from outside. The next morning, the three tried to forget what they'd seen. They slept badly, waking with the sense that something was following them. There were no logical explanations, and they didn't talk about it aloud. It was as if silence prevented the fear from taking shape. They stopped at a roadside diner, the kind that still serves food on thick plates and smells of old greasy oil. A slow, out-of-place song played on the radio. The few customers inside didn't look up. When they mentioned the woman they had helped, the waiter froze for a second. He didn't respond. He just walked away and disappeared into the kitchen. A woman sitting at the counter, white-haired with sunken eyes, slowly turned toward them. She said that if they'd seen a woman at the crossroads, it wasn't an encounter. It was a warning. Her voice was hoarse, worn by time. She recounted that in 1966, a young bride had been killed at that very fork in the road. She'd been on her way to marry at a nearby church. The groom never arrived. Some say he fled. Others say he died before reaching the altar. The woman, devastated, made promises no one should hear. And in return, she received something, a reunion. But the price was time, and time collects what's owed. Since then, every decade, drivers claim to have seen a woman standing by the fork. Always at the same, why always wearing worn white clothes. Some say she speaks little. Others insist she only watches, waiting. But everyone agrees on one thing. Those who stop never return the same. The legend says she can't leave on her own. She needs to be taken, and once taken, someone must stay. That night, Tyler had a strange dream. He was alone at the crossroads, but the car wasn't there. The road stretched in every direction, and in the center, a white figure watched him. He tried to speak, but no voice came. He tried to run, but his feet sank into the dirt as if it were mud. The woman simply repeated, without moving her lips, "Someone must stay." He woke with a heavy chest and a metallic taste in his mouth. He didn't tell the others. But from that morning on, his shadow seemed longer. His reflection in glass lagged behind him. In mirrors, his eyes sometimes blinked out of sync. Miguel started feeling strange inside the car. The back seat creaked, as if someone moved there. The rear-view mirror, even adjusted, reflected images that didn't match what was behind them. Once, he saw the woman sitting there again. Just for a second. But it was enough. Chloe began hearing the woman's voice in dream fragments. The voice said things she didn't understand, until one phrase became clear. She came back before the exchange. It made no sense. It sounded like a decree, like a rule. On the third day after the sighting, something happened. Tyler disappeared for hours, without anyone noticing. When they found him, he was standing at the side of the road, looking at the fork they'd passed. He said nothing. His eyes were red, typical of someone who hasn't blinked in a long time. They tried to convince him to leave, but he merely said, in a tone that wasn't his, "I've been chosen." That night, the silence thickened around the rented house where they stayed. The power flickered, and outside, the fog wove paths between the trees. The air smelled of damp wood and old iron. Inside the living room, the television turned on by itself, displaying only static. Miguel tried to turn it off, but the screen changed on its own. It showed the road. It showed the fork. And then the back seat of the car, empty. Then ... it wasn't anymore. Days later, residents found the car abandoned in a soybean field, its roof covered in moss. There were marks on the rear door. 3 vertical slashes, as if someone clawed the metal with fingernails. Someone passing by said they saw distantly a figure in white standing at a new crossroad, 3 kilometers farther down, linked to another road no one remembered existing until then. Chloe is in police records. She said they kept coming, and she had to warn, but she was never found. In her final post online, she wrote only, "Someone must stay." Today, no one talks much about that road. Official records state the road was closed decades ago, and no one may travel it. But surveillance cameras catch lights passing after dark cars without year, without plate, without destination. The crossroads still exist, and the lady remains there, with her eyes fixed on anyone brave enough to look. Would you dare to stop and help someone on a deserted road? What if that gesture meant you'd never return to what you know? Tell us in the comments if you ever stopped for someone on a dark highway. Have you ever felt your decision was the wrong one? And what if you were the victim of the exchange, someone who needed to stay so she could leave? Don't forget to like, share with your friends, and subscribe for more stories like this. The road still exists, and another crossroads awaits.